Hello, I'm Monica Marlowe.
And I'm Andrew Marlowe.
Welcome to Marlowe House Presents Backstage. We're going to talk a little bit about the things that we do to get ready for our podcast. We're going to probably meander quite a bit and talk about things that are of interest to us. Mostly we just want to be able to prove that we actually have successfully been able to record our voices in a way that sounds pleasing to the ear to some degree, more so than they have in the past. We've run into some problems in the past. We've had 4 audio setups.
This counts as 5.
Okay.
The boom stand actually might count as 6. I was actually just referring to the mics, but I think at this point we're at 5.
Yeah, so we started with 1 Yeti. That gave us a little bit of strange reverb.
And, well, most importantly, we didn't get enough audio out of it.
Yeah.
So we went to 2 Yetis.
And then that gave us a lot of really weird echoes. So then we went to a mixing board with lavaliers, but unfortunately the mixing board we had wasn't big enough.
Maybe this is only 4. I could have sworn we had something else in there that we tried.
So we tried the lavs with 1 Yeti, and then we got the voice of God telling us about hee-haw, which we will include in some outtakes because that was probably one of the funniest games we've ever played.
But unfortunately, the audio is totally unusable.
Yeah, it's
bad.
It's bad. I mean, it's
not the
you
worst.
Can hear it. Yeah, no,
it's not the worst audio. It's not the worst audio we've had.
No, but it's
close.
It was
one of the best games. Worst audio.
Yeah, it kind of broke my heart that we couldn't use that.
Yeah.
So then we moved to we bought a second board that we never even used.
Yeah, but I guess that's why I'm counting it up, because I'm counting the board. I'm counting the setup that never got used.
The one that we never even took out of the box, because we were going to use that with the labs, and we decided
we're going to use it with the 2 boards. We're going to do 2 boards.
Right, with the labs. And then we were like, well, once we buy all of that stuff, we could just buy ourselves an even bigger board. So our current setup, our first board that we used was the Yamaha MG 10XU, and it only allowed us to use 4 XLR mics, and we really needed minimum of 5. So we've upgraded to the MG 12XU, which allows us 6 XLR inputs and a lot of bells and whistles that we will probably never use. We are still recording.
Maybe backstage we'll play with it at some point, and we'll just do some like weird voices and do things from the middle of the Grand Canyon or something, because there's like the whole cave reverb. And
there's some we played around with that. That was fun. I didn't know how much you could sound like Baymax without actually trying. That was amazing. We'll work on that. And so now we're up to the Yamaha MG 12XU with a bunch of cardioid dynamics. It wasn't what we wanted to use. I really wanted to try to use lapel mics so that we would be able to move in and out of the table without having our audio suffer. Our table's pretty big. Right now it's like, what is it, like a 12? It's like 12 feet. It's an IKEA dining room table that seats presumably 8 very skinny people, but
it's actually I think with all the leaves in, it's intended to seat 3. I think it might even be 4 to a side with all the seats. So it's like 10. Yeah,
but they'd have to be awfully skinny people
10
sitting on stools or something.
10 skinny people. Because of the chairs we use, we really only get 6 around the table.
We got 7 people around the table, but it was tight.
Well, yeah, it was a little tight. But
right. And that was
we have a mixer, and we've got other stuff. So I mean, we have things that take up whole bodies worth of space, not on the table.
Yeah, the mixer and the laptop take up an entire person's worth of
2 people.
Well,
because when we're gaming, it doesn't sit on the table.
That's true. It sits on a table, a side table.
It sits on a side table.
So we have 2 side tables, and I am surrounded by audio equipment. But usually we usually try to play with no more than 4 players, because that makes an awful lot of voices at the table, and we have some really good friends who have been helping us out. I'm actually really excited. So I looked at, we have a Facebook Backstage that you can't see, but that we see with all of the people that we have as our cast of characters. We actually do have parity. I counted it up. We have 7 male and 7 female friends, players.
Wow.
We have 7 men and 7 women.
So far.
So far. We haven't gamed with quite all of them.
No, not yet.
But we have gamed with all of the women have been recorded
at least once.
At least once. We have a couple of male friends that we would like to game with that we haven't quite gotten a chance to because of timing, but
timing and location.
Yeah. Well, and not even everybody's on that.
Oh, did you not put Andrew on yet?
No, I haven't put Andrew on it yet.
All right, so that breaks our parity.
I know, but we'll figure something out. I'm sure we'll find another. I'm sure I have another girlfriend sitting around somewhere who's dying to get into gaming with us.
Actually, we've got at least one, I think, that is on the table that we haven't talked to 100% yet, but we're going to work on.
Well, and again, some of it's more distance issues than lack of wanting.
Distance in real life.
Yeah. It isn't that they don't want to game with us. It's that real life always takes precedence over gaming, sadly, which it has in our lives too. So the reason it used to, now we game in some kid's mom's basement.
You're the mom. Shh. Sorry, I'm the dad, so it's okay.
Yeah, but we have kind of half transformed our basement into a very makeshift recording studio.
It's not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful.
No, but you can't see all of our cool, nerdy geek stuff.
We can always pull the curtains back.
Yes. So we put curtains up. That was an early adoption after we realized that the equipment was going to pick up all the echoes from our big, nearly empty basement space. So our basement has really pretty dark blackout sound dampening curtains, in addition to lots of figures and bookshelves upon bookshelves of gaming books and games.
Most of which are behind the curtains now.
Yeah. So we decided to do this podcast because
we're dumb.
Yeah. We are. We love self-inflicted punishment. We don't like ourselves very much.
No, it's been fun.
We should learn to love ourselves better.
It's been fun.
It has been fun. We have gamed more in the last month and a half than we maybe have in 2018 otherwise.
Yeah. There's been more podcast gaming than there has been regular gaming. 2018 at this point may have more gaming in it than 2017, and we are only in May.
Yeah, it might. We have probably gotten a group together at least once every other week.
No. We have had between our regular games.
You mean like the Friday and the Saturday and the
and between
Sunday.
all that. So we have had probably more games in the last 5 months than most of last year. Definitely more than the year before.
Yeah. It didn't hurt that we added another regular game on Fridays that we almost always make.
Mm-hmm. But most of the giant increase has been for the podcast.
Yeah. Which is worth pointing out that all of our podcast recordings so far have been Cipher System adjacent games. They've been Numenera, Cipher System, Numenera. We're gonna do Predation here in about a week. That is by design, but that is not going to be the only game we play. Because of our space and our sound quality issues, we wanted to make sure that we had the fastest learned, most streamlined game.
That required the least amount of table space.
Yeah.
Now that we have the sound mastered, figuring out how we'll get sound and maps on the table with minis.
That's another hurdle for future us.
Especially since we aren't using the lavs because the idea of using the lavs was so that we could move around and move minis and things like that. But unfortunately, with the lavs, we weren't getting constant sound, and you would pick up the sound of our rustling clothes, which was not appropriate. And
I mean, we're inappropriate as it is.
Yeah. So stand mics really were the way to go. It just is unfortunate that it is going to be in the way.
Yeah. It has been a very interesting experience, though. It is different kind of play, I think. I think everybody has really stepped up. I think having a microphone in front of your mouth,
it makes it harder, and yet it just makes it different.
It does make it different.
It's just an entirely different skill set to run with a mic shoved in your face, and to know that the things that are going on that are going to be preserved.
Like stomach growling and
well, that wasn't my stomach. So
no, it wasn't your stomach. But I can't believe how many stomachs.
I want to specify now that I'm not the one going.
It wasn't my stomach either. But we have had some very. These mics are a lot more sensitive than I thought they would be. But it is my goal to eventually get us a little bit more.
If we can figure out how to do it so that we don't have that pickup, it'd be great.
Yeah, I'd like to get a little bit nicer quality mics. These are definitely
but they're not bad.
No, they're not. They pick things up. They make sound. That's good.
And the important part was that they were in our budget.
That is definitely it. So, do we want to talk about how we decide which games we're going to play, or what games we're thinking about playing in the future?
If we actually had a regular system instead of figuring out what games we're going to play, that might be a viable discussion point. But I don't know that we really have a particular system to it.
I think we should take up, like, I don't know, wrestling and sell tickets. We should we should each pick.
We just take a dartboard and put them up on the dartboard.
Yeah, but we could sell tickets and make money.
Nobody's going to watch me not wrestle you.
Oh, I don't know. Have you been to the internet?
Right, but with the way my knee is, I'm not wrestling anybody.
Oh, well, that's true. So we're totally going to use this.
Are we?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
We have to?
Yes.
So, all right, seriously, how do we pick our games? Yeah, how do we pick our games? What things we wanted to play, things we're good at. I know the couple of things we started with were games that we ran in Gen Con as members of Monty Cook's asset team.
It is definitely easier to run something that we have run before, because there are fewer surprises on the GM side of things that you have to look up. Because everything that we have run so far and recorded, we have run multiple times.
Well, that's not entirely accurate. The first round of recordings was because we didn't have permission to run from Monty Cook Games yet. So we ran for that opening gambit where we had really horrible audio, was completely me.
Oh, right.
And kind of off the cuff.
Right. But that was... So we ran so we played something called the Sinister Door, which you may or may never get to hear, but we did put up a sample from it. So Sinister Door is something we may revisit, but it is probably not.
It'll be revisited. It'll be revisited in a different way.
Right. And then we played Infinity Shift. Infinity Shift is straight up cipher system. It ended up, unfortunately, being the worst of the audio recordings that we had, because
was it actually the worst, or is it because I thought our worst still fell within the bands on the.
Well, it depends. I guess it depends on what you consider the worst. I consider Infinity Shift to have. It has both some of the best quality, but some of the worst, because we didn't have enough mics for everybody, so we had to share microphones around. And it wasn't because of any. It wasn't because. It wasn't because of any lack of.
We had the Yeti issue.
We had the Yeti
because the Yeti wasn't coming in at the same time.
Right, the Yeti was. I was on the Yeti, and everybody else was on the board, and so the Yeti was picking up everybody. It wasn't for lack of heroic effort on the part of Sound Girl that that it sounded bad. If she hadn't come and helped set up and show me,
it certainly led to better sound.
It did. It was definitely the best thing that could have happened, because then we really started to think about what it was we were really needing.
What was wrong with our setup?
Right.
It actually put a really good spotlight on the things that were failing. And it let us take that moment, consider what we were doing and how we were doing it and how we were really going to fix it, rather than just putting another Band-Aid on it.
Right.
Because the Band-Aids weren't working.
Right. I don't have nearly the same audio experience that she had. It was, and it was one of the
Let's admit it, we've got audio experience, but our audio experience is a bit outdated.
Yes, my audio experience is 20 plus years outdated. So, yeah. Definitely.
I wasn't going to say how outdated. You can delete how much outdated that was.
It's outdated by more than a year. So.
Wow.
But it was also probably one of my favorite games, because we had so many dynamic people at the table. It was hilarious.
It was hilarious. It was fantastic.
I rarely cry tears of laughter as a GM. But our friends are just amazing, and that's why we will share the audio, not because, not for any other reason, but because it was so fun.
We'll put it on the Patreon, but
we won't be putting it on iTunes.
We won't be putting that out there where everybody can just go see it either. We will it will be a little bit on the down low, and those people who are Patreons or are following our Patreon.
Then we ran Skeina the Blackbone Bride.
Yeah, we ran Skeina the Blackbone Bride because that is one of my go-to favorite.
And so I have the first episode of that one edited and ready to go to sound. And what we've been doing is using Sirenscape for sound effects and background music. Andrew's been putting that on because
at your table, you would probably want to use it at the table. It's a lot of fun to use at the table. We've done it before. But we're afraid for sound quality that if we do it at the table, it's going to be...
You won't be able to hear it on the recording.
And we'll have links for all this stuff, too. Like, we'll even give you links for the board we're using and mics that we're using. We picked our stuff all up on Amazon. We'll make sure all of those links are in there.
Well, they are all available. They are all available on Amazon, but that's not where we got all of our stuff at. And then we gamed... Oh, we didn't play last night. What is today? I can't even remember what today is. Today's Tuesday. On Saturday, we played...
Shadewalker.
So we played Infinity Shift by Dennis Detweiler. Skeina the Blackbone Bride is by Shauna Germain. And Shadewalker is by Sean K. Reynolds. All available on moneycookgames.com.
I believe they're also all available on drive-thru.
They are all excellent choices. Shadewalker.
Shadewalker is actually the only one not designed for conventions specifically. But it was designed specifically for the asset team originally so that they could run demos in stores. It was actually designed for store demos, which is a little different.
We actually ran it probably in the shortest amount of time, but we were also very motivated. I would say if we run the episodes, we haven't really decided how long our episodes are going to be, but at the same time, games like this, all games really should have a good sense of timing, and you should be hitting a big event of some kind about once every hour to hour and a half. So our episodes are going to be about an hour, about the length of a
somewhere
TV show.
Between 40 minutes and an hour and a half.
We aren't going to be able to be real consistent because cutting up the story by the
we don't
time
have
marker,
to fit in the time. We don't have commercials.
We're the BBC.
Yeah. We're going to tell it in the time it takes to tell it.
Even with cutting out all of the incidental sounds like the ums, the ands, the awkward 5-second pauses while we're trying to look something up.
If you were hearing the unedited version of this, you'd know there's like 30 minutes of ums that we've already displaced.
There's an hour of, well, we're at the, so the recording you're hearing will not be this long, but we've been recording for an hour and 13 minutes, but we talked about some things that were completely inappropriate to air.
No,
well, not inappropriate.
There's just no context for them because we kind of approached them in the way that Monica and I have been married for a very long time, and there are ways that we...
More than a year.
So we have a lot of shorthand, and there's some stuff that just, as we were kind of getting warmed up and we were trying to decide exactly how we were going to do our conversations with you, we just kind of bounced around and some weird things happened and discussions were had, and it was not that it's inappropriate, it's just...
It's terrible listening.
Awful listening. And we may be editing all this out too, but you never know.
Yeah. It depends on what I feel like putting in. I hide all of it from Andrew, and then I just give him the final product. Then he has to deal with that.
Every time you do it, I'm like, I sound so much smarter than I was.
You're welcome. So we pick our games at this point based on our familiarity with it, how fast we think we can tell it, because it is draining to sit in front of a microphone and feel like you're on stage for 4 or 5 hours. You have to be mindful. We can't be touching the table. We can't bump our elbows. People start doing things like cracking their knuckles, and gamers are very fidgety, and they like to click their pens and
their dice.
And it's not fair of us to ask our friends to endure
playing with the Velcro.
Yes.
No, none of these things actually happened at our table, though. They're all perfect players. Absolutely.
Are you sitting at the same table I'm sitting at every week? This last month and a half has been really amazing. Even though I've been without a job, which is going to change soon, is one of the reasons why we're trying to get everything up and running as quickly as possible, because I will be moving.
That, and I've always wanted to get more than a handful of episodes out before we launch.
Right. So by the time we actually get episodes up and running, we will have probably at least 2 entire games worth in reserve. So it looks like at this point we will be releasing Skein of the Blackbone Bride sometime in June as one drop of multiple episodes. Then after that, we will start releasing Shadewalker weekly and Cawdor Complex, which we have not yet recorded. So until we have Cawdor Complex recorded and possibly moving on post-production, we won't be looking to release anything.
We were talking about Cipher System. There's some other things that are on our table that we'd like to do. It looks like we're going to do a lot of Cipher. I'm not even going to beat around the bush here. It makes for very good audio. It is very simple to run. It's very easy to teach to people. And we have some big plans coming that require all of our players to know Cipher System. Because I think we're going to try to tackle something that no other podcast I'm aware of has actually tried, but we'll save that for future.
Yeah, we have to figure out the logistics. This is going to be...
It's going to be massive.
Yeah. We do want to do other games. Our goal in the future is to...
I have a list.
A very long list with lots and lots of books.
I keep looking at that list going, I don't know that we're going to ever get to these. I think we're going to get stuck in a couple of ruts here and there.
We'll get there.
But we'll see. I don't know.
But we'd also like to know what our listeners would like to see us or hear us play. You know, we definitely have a background in Pathfinder. There's no denying that. We've both been freelance writers for a while. We have some hopes of running a Genesis Star Wars game of some kind.
Or Star Wars or something.
Or both. Some of our other players have expressed interest in running games that we aren't as familiar with.
So we may be looking at a Shadowrun game. That was how one of the Star Wars suggestions came up. There's some things I've picked up that we've never run that I would like to run.
We have hundreds of books in this room. We have never
that would start getting in. Well, we've used some of them. I've used that would start getting into some older titles. We could end up going into. We may even see some old
GURPS.
OSR games over there.
I see GURPS.
GURPS is not likely to happen.
Yeah, but there's Discworld. Okay, maybe not. No, we might do Discworld. No, we probably won't do Discworld.
Yeah, we probably can't do it justice.
No, we probably can't.
We could try.
Anyway, so there's also...
But, I was going to say with the backlogs, things that, I know people at my table would appreciate seeing drug back up include things like Cyberpunk 2020, although I wouldn't mind seeing that advanced a little bit and maybe doing some of the Interface Zero material for one system or another. Gamma World. One of my goals is to play Bluebeard's Bride. There is a Kickstarter right now for a knit-along role-playing game. I guess I'll be running sound for that.
You'll be running... Well, I could teach you how to knit.
We've tried that. My fingers don't work that way.
You just don't practice. But we do have, surprisingly, 4 knitters amongst our players.
Is it only 4?
No, actually, we have 5.
I was going to say, I thought
we have 5. We do have 5.
Because you've got 3 and then...
so it's myself, Melissa, Lissa, Angela, and Lynette.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, and Elizabeth wants to learn how to knit, so...
Ooh.
So we may have a knitting teaching class.
Depending on how that knit-along game actually works, maybe that's where we do... Oh, what was your post-apocalyptic one?
Wool Warrior.
The Wool Warrior.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We'll see what the game looks like. I have had thoughts about that. That has not gone unnoticed. I am thinking about that a lot. We have a lot of different things that are available to us.
Almost every edition of D&D.
We really want to go old school. We could pull out the Thaco and
we could go with AD&D, the old basic set. The red box, blue box, teal box, black box, gold box. I think we have all of them.
Do we really want to devote that much time?
No, I just mean that those are all options. We could play at any of those tiers.
Yes. We are thinking about contacting some of our earliest table mates and running a throwback, probably not a Thursday, but a throwback game.
Well, we may air it on Thursday. We could drop it on a Thursday. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun. That month we could drop everything on Thursday. They could be Throwback Thursday month.
Well, that is if we don't end up dropping on Thursday anyways. I mean, who knows what day of the week we're going to be on.
Yeah.
Since we're not quite to the point where we're figuring our release schedule yet.
We do have access
to every edition of Star Wars.
We have Dragon Age. Mm-hmm. We have Blue Rose.
Gumshoe.
We have Gumshoe.
Because we've got a couple of different ones of that. We've got the Pellegrin Press, Cthulhu.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be the King in Yellow is also going to be Gumshoe.
Yeah.
And we're on the Kickstarter for that. Are we not?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought
so. We also, something that we used to do once upon a time before we podcasted was we did special games for special holidays. And I'm hoping we might see some of that again.
This does give us a good excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've run some horror ones, and we did one for we did a goofy one for April.
We're gonna have to do a Groundhog Day one. Groundhog Day.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, for that we may do The Strange. We
could do that. We could do your award-winning setting.
Yeah, it's not really an award. Wow. It was second runner-up.
Close enough.
Yeah, my recursion.
Yep.
5 Moons. The Pathfinder playtest.
Mm-hmm. Second ed.
Mm-hmm.
Coming soon. So the reason that we wanted to do this podcast was we've experienced, I mean, at this point, probably... Well, I guess I should be conservative. Several dozen players that we've never gamed with before, but we've sat down at tables and run things for them. And every time that happens, I am always astonished and delightfully surprised that they have fun when we all sit down and I run a game for them. And we realize
you shouldn't be surprised.
Well, you know. But what it comes down to is... our time as podcasters, or not as podcasters, because we're on the No Direction podcast with some occasional appearances, but certainly as bloggers, is that everybody does games a little differently, but that people are always worried that they're doing it wrong. And gaming is not about following the rules and there being only one way to have fun.
Yeah, you can't just... There was a video not too long ago that we stumbled across.
I wrote a whole blog about it.
The host was very upset that, you know, shows like Critical Role paint an inaccurate view of what it's like to be at a table. They're all professional voice actors and they're all very polished and everything's perfect. And while we're not...
We are by no means polished and perfect. Not even close.
Even polishing off some of our rough edges so that it's at least listenable, we are still trying to preserve what it's like to play with regular, ordinary players at a regular, ordinary table, and maybe throw some unique surprises that our writing backgrounds offer. I do know that we've got some special things planned in the future. No dates are set yet, but we've got some things coming up that'll be exciting, and I hope people will tune in for.
So we decided that we wanted to do a podcast because we wanted people to feel like gaming could be something that they did, that it's not hard. I mean, it's intimidating.
Well, no, it's not because we think that people aren't gaming. It's that trying to keep people from trying to compare their game. When you're having fun at your table,
that's your fun.
Yeah.
Don't give away your fun. Don't be like, well, my fun doesn't sound like Glass Cannon's fun or
Critical Role
or any of the other.
What was the one that they did for Will Wheaton did the ones with Green Ronin?
Titanfall, isn't it? Was it Titanfall? Titanfall?
Titan's Grave.
Okay.
Will Wheaton did Titan's Grave. So, I mean, we're talking professional actors again. They polish that up really nicely.
Yes. They're in a real studio. They're not in some kid's mom's basement with curtains hanging over the big open spaces. And we hope that ultimately people will find that listening to us have fun encourages them to go out and do the same thing. I think one of the biggest reasons I joined the asset team for Money Cook Games was because it was a really fun game and I wanted other people to really have fun too. And it was a really great way to facilitate that. It's the first game that I really ran with any consistency, although I do really only run it at conventions. But I am going to be playing the GM's role a lot more frequently because... Yay! Oh, I know. But it's because if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I don't have any special training at this. I don't have anything that I bring to the table that I didn't learn through practice, basically. And sitting down and practicing being a GM is the way you become a GM. Sitting down and playing is how you learn to play by the rules and how you become a better player. And that's one of the reasons why I joined the No Direction blog, the No Direction podcast blog, because people were saying, oh, you won Paizo's RPG Superstar. How'd you do that? Well, I still don't know.
Talent.
Luck.
Talent.
But it wasn't anything that I innately knew. It was a 40-hour plus a week job.
It was. To master the rules, you had to learn the rules for each round. And when you pulled things, but all that stuff came from your head.
Well, yes.
All of it came from your head.
Okay. But I had a lot of people who helped me refine what came out of my head.
Not during the course of the contest.
Well, no.
Since then, absolutely.
It's something that it can be taught. It can be learned, and anybody can do it if they have the desire to be a gamer. Anybody can be a gamer. And it's important to me, especially as the mother of 2 nerdy children, that they see both men and women, or for that matter, non-binary, non-conforming, and everyone else along the identity spectrum can do the same things that they can do, and that they can see that there is an equity in all things, especially in hobbies. And so for me, this podcast is about showing that there are lots of people in the world who do what we're doing, and they're doing it in their own way, and they're having fun doing it, and that there is no one way to game. So that's why we wanted to get together and talk a little bit about what it is we've done, where we've come from as far as the podcast, where we are now, and what our goals are in the future. And to invite everybody who's listening to this to, give us some feedback. You found us somewhere. Hopefully you found us on our Patreon and that you've considered backing us. And
consider sharing that link with your friends. Sorry.
No, absolutely. If you can't back, we understand. We've been there. We've been in that place. We're in that place right now.
Yeah. There are tons of people on Patreon I would love to back.
But at the same time, if you do find yourself in a different financial situation, you want to back us, that's great. And if you want to listen to us for free, that's fine too.
That's part of why we're doing it as a Patreon. I mean, yep. we could be, doing something else or doing the Patreon a different way. But a lot of this, almost everything we're going to release will be available. But we're going to do everything out in the open so people can see it, so that it reaches the most people it can. And we hope that our patrons will join us on that.
Mm-hmm. So if you're hearing this, it's probably because you found our Patreon account.
Or our Facebook page.
And thank you guys for listening. This is Monica Marlowe.
And I'm Andrew Marlowe. And we're Marlowe House Games.
And this has been Marlowe House Presents Backstage.